This week on Jersey Matters, we are a week away from the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and we get a reminder from first responder John Field that the death toll from that day continues to rise. New Jersey's cities are about to get a whole lot greener. Jeff Tittle of the Sierra Club will explain. This year, New Jersey high schools will be the first in the country to include financial psychology as part of its curriculum. And if you love Matchbox cars, have we got a museum for you. Hello and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mente. I hope you're having a great Labor Day weekend. We are now just 1 week away from the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And as we approach that day, it is important to remember the 9/11 first responders who risked everything to try and save lives and to rebuild. John Field was one of those first responders, and since then he's been an advocate for all who rushed to the pile when America needed them most. Hey, John, it is great to see you again. Thanks a lot for agreeing to do this. I want to start with some of the basics. I think a lot of people still use the 2,977 people, Americans, were murdered on 9/11. The number is much greater than that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you are accurate. And one, it's good to see you, old friend, and thank you for having me. We know around 3,000 people died on 9/11. But what people fail to remember is that those who have died since 9/11, since that horrific Tuesday morning, we have now lost more men and women who ran into harm's way than those who died that horrific Tuesday from senseless violence. We average losing somebody, Larry, every 2.7 days.
Wow.
And it's only getting worse. You know, the average age of the 9/11 responder was about 38 and a half, 39 years old on 9/11. Now you're looking at around 59 years old on average. Just getting old humbles you. It hurts. Things stop working. It's harder to get up and down. Now you add these debilitating, life-altering, life-threatening illnesses. And so many of these men and women, uniform and non-uniform, are not making it to average life expectancy of 78.6. And, since I've seen you, I've probably been to about 150 funerals.
No, and it's all because of that toxic stew that was in the air. And I know that you hold the former governor of New Jersey in some contempt for saying that the air was clean that day. Christy Todd Whitman, who was EPA director at the time, and she was safe to work.
She was the EPA director with no experience to be the EPA director. Okay, so the words that she chose, the orders that she took from the White House, and the words that were echoed by other elected officials in New Jersey and New York, they got to live with that. It's recklessness at its highest form. And, shame on her. But, we're about solutions and problem solving. So if this happens again, let's not repeat the mistakes, because we still learning a lot from 9/11. And,
a lot of the people that you just talked about dying, since this show is called Jersey Matters, are from New Jersey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, James Sedroga was from Little Egg Harbor, and James Sedroga that's who the bill's named after. James Sedroga helped the Compensation Act, and New Jersey made up a large response to Ground Zero, as did the 5 boroughs, and 433 out of 435 congressional districts came to New York during the cleanup and the recovery that took 10 months. So many people went home, got sick, and died, and we don't even know about it.
And these are some cancers that people their age shouldn't get, that are odd for someone to get, that are rare cancers that you can.
Yeah. So we not only did we work there on the pile, people lived there or went to school there. We ate there, we slept there, we cried there, we went to the bathroom there. We were exposed by these toxins 24/7. The nose, mouth, and skin, we were inhaling these toxins. The number one cancer in the 9/11 community now is skin cancer, right? So in 2010, when we got the bill passed the first time, we had no cancers. We would never been able to get the bill passed. A year later, we got 4 cancers added. Now we have 68 cancers added to the bill. But if I had lung cancer and somebody in the general population had lung cancer, 9/11 lung cancer is a lot worse than somebody else. And listen, both cancers are horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But these cancers in the 9/11 community are cancers that are on steroids. They're aggressive. And without getting this legislation passed, these men and women might not have had a chance to fight it.
Did you get everybody to register? Do you believe?
Yeah. So even if you're not sick, we're imploring people, file a claim, because the further we get away from 9/11, the harder it is for people to get affidavit. And you will need 2 affidavits. So, we're telling people in the media, the reporters, those downtown covering the towers coming, get in the program. Just get the affidavits, get a claim number, even if you're not sick, because there's a good chance in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you're going to get a 9/11 related cancer, right? I like to think that most people got in the program.
I do want to talk about somebody that's been helping you, and that's Jon Stewart.
Sure.
He took your fight to a whole new level. And now, on the anniversary of 9/11 that's coming up, he is going to do a documentary. And so is Spike Lee. They're going to have 2 documentaries that you're one of the stars of. Talk about it.
Well, I don't think I'm the star in either one.
I don't think they can help it.
No. Well, John filmed with Spike Lee as well. And Spike's got a 4-part, 2-hour, 8-hour documentary. It'll air every Sunday up until the anniversary. His last episode will be on 9/11. People are going to remember Jon Stewart and then John Field of the Feel Good Foundation. But it's the men and women, the diverse group of responders and volunteers and those who lived, worked, and went to school in Lower Manhattan that I brought to D.C. They're the reasons why the bill got passed. They were the ones who, when I was begging them, I got to get you back to D.C. We're going next week again. We're going next week again. A lot of people go to D.C. once a month, once every 6 months. We were going 3, 4, 5 times a month. When this is all said and done, I've made over 350 trips to D.C. now, over 1,800 meetings. And I'm never going to apologize for anyhow, on what we did and what we had to do. And to have Jon Stewart in your toolbox and be able to utilize him and his forum and his platform, I want to believe that we would have got these bills passed without John. But I don't know if I want to test that theory. John and I now, for the last 2 years, ever since we left D.C., the last time on the VCF for the 9/11 bill, we're working on the burn pit bill. And we're going to get a bill passed by the end of this year for veterans coming back from around the world from burn pits, because they have the same cancers and same respiratory illnesses as 9/11 responders.
John, you are, and I know you're humble about this kind of stuff, but you are an American hero, and it's wonderful what you did and what you sacrificed on 9/11 and for all the first responders since then. I've seen it firsthand.
Coming from you, that means a lot. But I'm an average guy who knows right from wrong, and I see injustice. And when an individual is hurting, your natural reaction is to help that person. That's the spirit of the human being. But when the masses are hurting, then you got to call the village to help the masses. And that includes not just the advocates and the elected officials, but it goes with the media. And you guys have told our stories for almost 2 decades now. And I thank you and all your colleagues for that, Larry.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. It was great to talk to you again.
I love you, man.
First responder John Field, founder of the Feel Good Foundation. Still to come on Jersey Matters, more green space is coming to a city near you. We'll explain next. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. New Jersey is getting $2 million to make urban spaces greener, and we're already seeing the results. Jeff Tittle, Executive Director of the Sierra Club, explains. Hi, thanks for joining us. I wanted to talk to you about this money that you got from the federal government. It sounds like New Jersey, especially the urban areas, is going to get a lot greener.
Yes, well, we work together. We didn't get it. It's going to the state and through the federal government. New Jersey, as you've been seeing with the census data coming out, shows that urban areas are growing. But, we don't have enough open space and parks and recreation facilities for people in the urban places in New Jersey. And, you know, there's an old line from a Cat Stevens song, as we build our cities higher and higher, where the children play. And I think that's why we need to have a federal investment in open space in New Jersey, because it's really critical for quality of life, for our families and our children. It's important for recreational impacts, and as well as for just health reasons, taking a walk, families being together and bonding. And we've seen that become even more important, you know, during COVID, how important open space and parks are for families in our state. And so this money will go a long way to help make our cities greener and help provide recreational opportunities for our families.
I might have gone with Joni Mitchell. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, but to each his own. I didn't want to take any credit away from you. You corrected me in the beginning and said we worked for this. Right. I know that's important to you. How did you get this?
Well, working with the congressional delegation and the Biden administration, you know, that's been part of it. We've been pushing for years, you know, to get more money from both state and federal government for parks in urban areas. And so, you know, for us, these are, you know, it's important because, look, it's not just an equity issue, it's a health issue, it's an environmental issue. Urban areas historically have been shortchanged. When you look at where the money goes on open space and parks, 75% of it go to rural and suburban areas, yet, you know, more than half the population of New Jersey live in urban areas. And so they've been getting shortchanged. So it's critical. But it's also important now because of dealing with something with climate impacts called heat island effect. As we green our cities and plant trees, it'll help lower temperatures. And, you know, people don't realize, like, in the summer day, it could be 10 degrees hotter in a place like Jersey City or Camden than compared to someplace, you know, further out in the more rural suburban areas. And so having parks are critical for recreation, for health, for, you know, for people's well-being, but it's also important when it comes to the environment as well.
Let's get specific about how much money you're getting exactly, and where are we going to see this? Where are we going to see things get greener?
Well, we're going to see more. So it's not just this, you know, this proposal that came through you know, this round. There's going to be future rounds, but right now it's going to a place like Camden, and we've seen good things there. It's going into Atlantic City. It's going, and we're hoping to get more money into places like Jersey City and Patterson as well. Through these programs. So, you know, there's some wonderful things happening in our urban areas. Jersey City is building a greenway along the Morris Canal, connecting parkland and putting in bike paths as well as expanding parks. And, you know, we're seeing, you know, there's a proposal that's not funded to put a bike path between Essex and Hudson County. So there's a lot of things that are out there that this money can go for.
Your cat agrees with you. He jumped up right in back of you during the shot, just a nod, and he's good. He's staring right at the camera.
Yeah.
How much money, though, is it this first round, and how much money are you expecting in total?
Well, total, we're not sure yet, but $2 million in the first round, but there's going to be at least 3 or 4 times that coming into the state over the next couple of years.
So this first round, where specifically are you spending it in the first round?
Well, parts going into Camden was a big part of that.
Where in Camden? What's going to happen in Camden?
It's for fixing parks and for creating more recreation facilities.
Oh, so it's not one specific project. It's just
it'll go
around the city. And where else will this money be spent?
It'll be going into Trenton. One of the important places it's going to is an area where they've been doing a lot of restoration along Assunpink Creek near downtown, and so it's going to go into help build a recreation facility there. But what's really been nice is that the state of New Jersey took a stream that was buried under basically parking lots and roads and have actually restored it and opened up the stream so you can now see it. And now they're putting in a recreation facility near it, so right along the banks of it. So it'll become a very nice facility for the people in Trenton and also for some of the state workers.
Well, that's great. And congratulations to you. I know this wouldn't have happened without you. And so it's wonderful. And we'd love to talk again when you get more money so we can hear about the projects.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more out there. That's what I was saying about places like Patterson and Jersey City. They're trying to get funding for as well.
Great. Well, when that happens, we'll talk to you again. Thanks again. Jeff Tittle, Executive Director of the Sierra Club. Next on Jersey Matters.
A Toms River family took a tragic event and turned it into an opportunity to create a positive and necessary change in their community. More on that story next.
This Labor Day weekend marks the end of summer, and the Jersey Shore has enjoyed what is expected to be a record-setting summer for rentals. The official tourism numbers for this post-pandemic summer will be out in the next week or so. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Most playgrounds in New Jersey are already accessible to those with disabilities, but one park in particular in Toms River is going above and beyond. And as Jersey Matters' Jennifer Marin tells us, the hope is it will become a model for parks across the country. Jennifer.
The Toms River Field of Dreams is a passion project for the Kane family. And although the need for this complex came from a tragedy, the family tells me the future is bright.
Coffee's walking.
Oh yeah, that's a family phrase from when I was little.
Laughter is a common sound throughout the Kane household. But this family is no stranger to difficult times. Mary Kane took this picture of her children eating breakfast on July 12, 2012, the day their lives would change forever.
An hour later, Gavin got into the car accident.
I was waiting to make a left-hand turn into the high school that I teach at, which is Toms River High School North. And, a truck hit us directly from behind.
Christian says the silence spoke volumes.
And when you have a 19-month-old boy in the back of your car, just waking them up from a nap, they cry. So after something like this and not hearing something, that's when I knew we were in trouble.
Gavin suffered severe brain trauma.
We were told that Gavin wouldn't do anything. We should look into getting a home for him.
Christian, a lifelong athlete, was devastated at the thought of his son missing out on the camaraderie that comes with being on a team.
A lot of the things that he was able to do physically were taken away from him. But it still didn't mean that he couldn't have those same relationships and experiences that I had.
As Gavin got older, the Canes realized their son craved the excitement of being around other kids, but the parks around them weren't entirely handicap accessible. So, in honor of their son, they began to work on one. It's called the Toms River Field of Dreams.
Building this Field of Dreams was really to be able to give not only Gavin, but everyone else who has the same some type of disability to have the chance to participate with others and have fun and enjoyment.
Mary hopes the complex will encourage all children to come together.
Being able to educate and allow young children to grow up with such a different group of people around them will make them now grow into adults that are so much more accepting.
Right now, the field is under construction, but when it's finished, it'll feature a wheelchair-friendly baseball field, ground-level merry-go-rounds, a quiet area for autistic children, and every single structure will be accessible by wheelchair. For the Canes, it's a dream come true, a dream they hope will inspire others.
If they find out that this complex is built by a high school math teacher and his wife, with dealing with their children and their life, and that they were able to do it in about 4.5 years, then you can build this anywhere throughout the country.
Due to COVID-19, construction on the field hit some roadblocks, but the Canes say funding from Governor Phil Murphy's office put the project back on track.
The Toms River Field of Dreams is set to open on November 13th. For now, reporting in Toms River for Jersey Matters, I'm Jennifer Marin.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Next on Jersey Matters.
Well, we know how COVID-19 has impacted people, but how has it impacted pets? We spoke with one New Jersey veterinarian about just that, pets in the pandemic. We'll have that story coming up next on Jersey Matters.
Welcome back. The pandemic affected us all in one way or another, but do you know that it also had a major impact on pets? Jersey Matters' Kimberly Kravitz explains. Kimberly.
During the height of the pandemic, animal hospitals were practically a ghost town. But after speaking with one New Jersey veterinarian, she tells me that getting an appointment for your pet has never been harder.
I can say the industry has never been busier.
Vets like Dr. Springstead at Pet Well Clinic, who were already dealing with pre-pandemic demand with not enough doctors to fill the void, are now facing a backlog of appointments.
It used to be, before COVID, that you could probably be seen in the next day or two, and now we're looking at days to sometimes weeks of being booked out in advance. Unfortunately, there's just not enough veterinarians. There's many, to an extent, that left the field because COVID and retiring.
Many people were afraid to leave their home at the start of the pandemic, like Celinta Vargas, and especially risk exposing their pets to the virus.
I was very concerned. I actually did not even want to walk them. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want the boys taking the dogs outside. So I basically kept them at home and try to go to the backyard coming back in. I didn't take them anywhere. I didn't go out anywhere because I wasn't sure if COVID was also contagious to animals.
The World Health Organization for Animal Health reports to date, there is not enough scientific evidence to identify the source of SARS-CoV-2 or to explain the original route of transmission to humans. The CDC recommends keeping pets away from people who have a current positive COVID-19 test or are quarantined awaiting results.
So they have their own version of coronavirus. We don't even vaccinate against it because the exposure is probably going to be there anyway when they're younger. They don't typically get the same type that we do, and if it is, it's usually a dead-end host.
And during the stay-at-home, adoption was at an all-time high.
I think many people adopted pets during the pandemic, like myself, to improve mental health, because it allows you to share, give and receive love.
Among the statistics found in a new survey by Rover.com is that 93% of people who got a pandemic pet improved their mental or physical health.
I think, from a mental health perspective, it's been really hard for each of us. It's presented different challenges for each of us, and to be able to just kind of have a ball of love waiting for you, excited for you, and something to just focus on that's not as intense as our world right now is a really beautiful thing.
So in the meantime, you can rest easy the next time you do have to pay a visit to the vet.
They have the plastic, the windows. They are very concerned. I liked it more than where I used to go to because of the glass. I'm able to see my pet. I'm able to see the doctor doing the exams to my pets.
Never be afraid to come in, never feel like we're going to judge. We just want to do the best we can to help you and your pet feel better. We want to educate. That's why we got into this field, because we want to make the bond between humans and animals stronger with every visit.
Now, Dr. Marcella wants to remind our viewers that this is a judgment-free zone. So if you haven't had the chance to get your pets to the vet, now is as good a time as ever. Reporting from the Pet Well Clinic of Union for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Hope you were having a great Labor Day weekend. I'm Larry Menti. New Jersey high schools already lead the country in having a curriculum that includes financial planning. But now this fall, it will be the first in the country to include financial psychology as part of the curriculum, thanks to New Jersey state-certified financial planner, Michelle April-Begina. Michelle, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I want to congratulate you, first of all, with your contribution to financial literacy in New Jersey, and we'll get to your contribution in 1 second. But you were telling me that New Jersey is at the forefront of teaching financial literacy. Can you explain?
They are. So we have been teaching financial literacy since about 2014 as a high school college or a high school requirement for graduation. And a few years back, 2018, New Jersey now requires middle schoolers to have financial literacy curriculum to be promoted out of middle school and into high school. So we are cutting edge in what we're doing in our approach to financial literacy. We're the only state in the country that's doing that.
Before we get to your addition on it, explain what financial literacy is.
It's like speaking another language, Larry. Right? If we're lucky enough to hit the genetic lottery that our parents taught us how to earn money, save money, invest money, and how to manage our emotions around money. Some of us get lucky, some of us don't. But financial literacy really is just that. it's not only knowing how to take our skills and our knowledge to earn money, it's also understanding what to do with that money once we're earning it. So it's the planning of it, the budgeting, understanding credit, understanding risk, whether that's investment or personal risk, on and on, all of the life stuff that our money touches.
It is so critically important, and it is beyond comprehension why it's taken so long for school systems to understand how important that is, when I'm sure they have kids of their own that fall into the traps of credit cards and student loans and all of those problems. Now, let's talk about that in a second. I want to get to your contribution because there is a new addition to the curriculum coming up this fall, and it's because of you, and it has to do with financial psychology. Explain that.
Yes. So in late 2018, I made a proposal to the state to add financial psychology and behavioral economics to our curriculum. I was doing research on another project, re-looked at the standards and realized that that was missing. My perspective, Larry, is first and foremost, I'm a resident of New Jersey. I have 2 school-age kids who are in the public school system. I want this not just for my kids, but for every kid. I mean, my kids are going to be out of the system soon. So this is really for the kids that are coming through. And what I come from is that perspective of being a resident, being a mom, but I'm also a practitioner. So I am a financial advisor, and I see this in practice of how people struggle around good, wise, rational, solid financial decision-making, and through no fault of their own. They don't have the information into who they are as people, what they believe in, and where those beliefs come from. That's really the psychological component about money. And the behavioral is some of our biological hardwiring that makes it difficult for us to make good decisions when we're in an irrational state of mind. So it's really teaching our kids what we know now. We know more about this, and it's upgrading the standards so that our kids are exposed to this kind of information sooner than later.
Are we the first school district in the country to have financial psychology added? We are. And now,
we are.
So you saw what was being taught now for several years in New Jersey, and you thought something was lacking, it's not enough. And so explain why you believe financial psychology is important and exactly what it is.
Well, I think there's 2 things for me to share. One, it's my own lived experience growing up in New Jersey. My parents ran a very successful business, and they were a hot mess when it came to their money. And it had nothing to do with knowledge. It really was them managing their emotions around money, which led to a lot of misspending behaviors. For example, when I was an early teen, our house was about to be foreclosed on, and we owned a private airplane. So that was my first exposure to how emotionally connected we are to our money. Later, as a practitioner in the field, I would meet people who were making, sometimes $1 million salaries, if you can believe this, and had little or nothing to show for it. I don't have any judgment around it. It's not facts and figures alone. There's an emotional connection that we have to our money that prevents us from really creating the type of wealth or security that we want to have. So I've lived it and I've seen it in practice. And I just thought, we know so much more, and we need to be exposing our kids to these connections, not just the factual information.
It's interesting because there are unique financial problems for young adults. And many times it's the first time they're on their own, and the world's in front of them, and they want to enjoy it, and they want to explore. And there you have credit card offers, and then you have your student loan debt. And so, give me one tip to manage that, and what is the psychology of that?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, it goes to what do you want out of your financial life, and why do you want it? And then I would go to the values, right? What do you really value around money? It could be education, it could be freedom, it could be family. So really understanding what drives you first. I think just to talk about the student loan debt situation for a second, I think part of the psychology there is that we have bought into something around what education means and the type of life that it can provide. And it's become, I think, this social problem of following a specific path. And that path is get into the best school, take on as much debt as you possibly can, and it will all work out because you'll be able to make enough to be able to pay those debts back. And we're finding that that's not necessarily the case. I mean, when I first started as an advisor, the common wisdom was save for your retirement. Don't worry about planning for college education. You can always find the money for school. And now we're seeing how much this is really biting people.
Yeah, and that is it's interesting because that's what brought it home to me. That is a psychological problem. That is putting too much of an emphasis on one aspect of your life and saying that I have to have this college, I have to have this college, or I'm never going to make it. And it might be the one thing that actually is holding you back. Because it's a drag on the rest of your life. Well, how in your curriculum do you deal with that type of problem? That specific?
Yes. So what we noticed in the working on the updated standards is there was some legislation that hadn't passed around educating our kids around the student loans, scholarships, grants, et cetera. And in our work, we just decided to add it. We weren't waiting for a law to be passed. We said our kids need to know this. So it got put into the curriculum. And that starts from 8th to 12th grade. They're learning about the consequences of default, taking a look at their income relative to their education, relative to the debt that they may take on. So a lot of critical thinking, as well as the information that they need around different types of loans or different ways to pay for school.
Wonderful. Congratulations again. It's nice to know, in New Jersey, schools are always number 1 or number 2 in the country. So you might push them over the edge to number 1 once again.
I don't think it's as big.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. I appreciate it. Michelle April-Bagina, New Jersey Certified Financial Planner. Still to come on Jersey Matters, a new docu-series about the pandemic, and it's centered on one New Jersey town. We'll tell you about it next. Welcome back. The pandemic of 2020 has given birth to a new docu-series that focuses on small businesses in one New Jersey town. I spoke with the producer of the docu-series, Closed Until Further Notice, Dan Gianfrancisco, owner of Strix Media. Thanks for doing this. So the documentary is called Closed Until Further Notice, and it's about the pandemic centered in New Jersey. So I can set that part up. Why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, so we're a video production company out of Morristown, New Jersey. And, we had a little bit more free time than we'd like during the pandemic. And a couple of people that are very invested in the Morristown community reached out to us to help create videos to spotlight different businesses. With my personality, I took one thing from 0 to 100, and I was like, well, why don't we make a documentary? Something that will live a bit longer and make, a little bit more of an impact with the way that we would make, a random 1-minute video to spotlight a business. So from there, it exploded into 15 episodes that are featuring all different types of business owners. Each episode spotlights a different business owner and their story through the struggle of the pandemic. Some of them are happy, some of them are a little bit sad, but the overall arching, story is that they made it and they're here to talk about it. Every time you do a documentary, I've done a couple, and every time you do a documentary, you learn some things you never even thought about before. And there's a theme that emerges all on its own. I hope you agree with that. Yeah, most definitely. And what did you learn? Yeah, so a couple of things that we learned is that, I guess I'll step back. The theme, I guess, would be that when these business owners were all struggling, they all did something individually or through their business to help the community. So not only were they struggling, but they gave time back to their community, whether it was, donating food or hosting events to help people that needed food, or, donated their services to people that hit harder times. I think that was one of the overarching themes, as well as I think that we really learned, that, and what we wanted people to learn out of this is that there's more behind the business than a logo. There's a person behind that business that is so passionate, that's working day and night, that, we want to make sure that people, really that hits home. I come from a family of small business owners, and, it's important for people to understand that, because, we do it for ourselves, but business owners do it for you. Like, nobody starts a restaurant to just, make food for themselves. They want to, spread that to their clients and their customers, and they want to offer a good service.
There's an inherent importance to this, because it all happened to us in real time. And what you don't realize when something happens to you real time and you lived it, that history was being made. We haven't been through something like this in this country since the 1914s. So this is going to document at a very personal level what people were going through for years to come. Like, when people study this, I'm sure that's what you hope you've done here, is given a lesson.
So I think that my biggest thing is I wanted to educate people on what it really takes to be a business owner. And it doesn't dive too deep in that, but I think it really humanizes these business owners and employees of, how people, went to work when they were scared, and, they didn't have an option. Some of these business owners, they had to keep going. And as the project went on, I think that there were certain points, even yesterday, I said to our team, I was like, wow, like, we really did it. Like, we made a documentary, and there's so many things that can be taken away from this. Like you said, history and humanizing them, and, just having this documented is pretty big.
And where is this going to air? Where can people see this?
Yeah. So September 28th at 7:30 p.m. in Morristown, New Jersey at the Mayo Performing Arts Center. It will be our premiere. We're hoping to show all of them. We might have to have an intermission. And then every week after that, we are hoping to, it's still up in the air, but I think it's what we're going to shoot our goal with is we're going to release 2 per week, I believe 7 or 8 weeks, whatever the math is on that. And those will be listed on our website. And then soon after that, we'll put them on social and things like that. But we really want to drive people to our website and let people read the story there of why we did it. All the ticket sales are going to the crew that helped make this happen, as well as some other fees that we've incurred, like advertising and printing out posters and things like that. And there's also a GoFundMe link on our website that also is all going towards the cast and crew, because one thing that we stand for is that creators deserve to be paid, and that seems to be an ongoing thing where they don't get paid what they deserve. And I think that these guys deserve every dollar that we can give them, because they really made something magical happen.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for talking with us. Great luck with the project. Dan Gianfrancisco, owner of Strix Media. Still to come on Jersey Matters.
I'm Phil Andrews, and coming up on Jersey Matters, boy, have we got a treat for you as we take you inside the phenomenal Matchbox Road Museum.
Flash flooding is a major concern across large chunks of the state due to elevation and close proximity to lakes, streams, and rivers that can quickly swell with heavy rain. Flooding is the leading cause of weather-related fatalities in the United States, and it's easily avoidable. When heavy rain is in the forecast, know those routes that usually flood and avoid them. Heavy rain can lead to rapid water rises in low-lying areas and rivers. A person can be swept away in just 6 inches of water. With a foot of water, a car or SUV can be swept away, and in 18 inches of water, larger vehicles like trucks can be moved. The advice is simple: turn around, don't drown. It's also very important to know the difference between a watch and a warning. A flood watch means conditions are possible for areas of flash flooding, while a warning means those conditions have come together and the flooding is actively happening. Don't be scared, just be prepared, and always stay weather aware. I'm Nor'easter Nick for Jersey Matters.
Welcome back. New Jersey is a treasure trove of quirky museums. And in this week's Jersey Jaunt, Jersey Matters' Phil Andrews takes us to one. Phil.
Well, Larry, as you know, you don't have to twist my arm to do this job. I love working for Jersey Matters. It gives me a chance to travel the state, meet some unbelievable people, and visit some incredible places, like where I am today. I am literally in the center of Matchbox car heaven.
Built to last, it's a blast, Matchbox!
I mean, let's face it, when I was a kid, Matchbox commercials were prominently featured during our Saturday morning cartoons. Heck, I even had a modest Matchbox car collection. But I gotta tell you, I was not prepared for what I saw when I traveled to the Matchbox Road Museum here in Newfield. Located just a stone's throw from Violin, the museum is the brainchild of Everett Marshall and features over 50,000 items. So, how did this all start?
Well, when my son was, my oldest son was 3 years old, he was born in '77. In 1980, Matchbox, the original company, went bankrupt. So I thought it would be pretty neat if I would buy 1 to 75, because there were 75 models, and you know, if I bought 1 to 75, we'd put them away someday, maybe they'd be worth something. And here we are. We filled the basement up, but we keep moving shelves around and finding empty spots where we can put something there, you know. And that's really what gave me the idea of the museum.
Matchbox actually originated in 1953 as a brand name of the British diecast company Leslie Products. Company co-owner Jack Odell created a toy that paved the way for the company's future success. You see, his daughter had show and tell in school, but the children were only allowed to bring things that fit into a matchbox. So Leslie created a scaled-down version of the company's larger steamroller toy, and hence the Matchbox brand was born.
I was very fortunate to be able to buy a collection which had this steamroller in it. And then obviously the collection steamrolled from that, not to use that pun, but you know, and it's just great to have one of every casting, and that's my aim. It's impossible to have every Matchbox ever made. Absolutely impossible.
But that has not stopped Marshall from continuing to add to his amazing collection. You recently just purchased, sight unseen, all these Matchbox. You didn't know what was in it, but you're telling me when you were looking at it this morning, your eyes lit up.
The fellow was a longtime collector. He had some health issues, and that's why he wanted to get rid of his collection. He told me how much he wanted and the amount of pieces that there were, and I said, well, you know, it doesn't matter what they are. And as we're unloading it, I'm finding some stuff that, yes.
When people come here, what do you want them to leave here feeling?
I want them to want to collect, because that's good for the hobby. We have a lot of older people like me, and you know, older than I am, and the fellow that I just bought this collection from, they're dying off or stopping collecting because they just are stopping because of the amount of product that's being put out that they can't get, and they just don't want to do it anymore. So I want the younger kids to do that.
Now, if you would like to come and check out the Matchbox Road Museum, you have to do it by going to Facebook, looking for the Matchbox Road Museum page, look for the phone number on that page, and call in, because you can only get in here by appointment only. The good news is, it's free. So gather up the friends, the family, and the kids, and come and check out this unbelievable museum. For Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews.
All right, thank you, Phil. My commentary is next. America's longest war is over. The truth is, it should have been over a long time ago. But that's not why many Americans are feeling a range of emotions today, ranging from disappointment to anger to embarrassment. It's because our leaders made a series of fatal mistakes in the withdrawal, culminating with a suicide bomb attack outside the Kabul airport, where throngs of people were desperately trying to get airlifted out of the country. The death toll is over 100 people, with many more seriously injured. The fact that 13 of the dead were identified as American servicemen and women caused a deep wound in the hearts of America, because in our hearts, we know that it didn't have to happen this way. And now we find out that Americans are still stranded in Afghanistan. That fact is a tear at the soul of every man and woman who has ever worn the uniform, because they believe as a vow of service never to leave anyone behind. And they were promised, as we were all promised, that no one would be left behind by our president.
Because we've got like 10 to 15,000 Americans in the country right now, right? And are you committed to making sure that the troops stay until every American who wants to be out is out?
Yes.
And yet he left Americans behind, trusting the Taliban that those Americans would be safe, breaking yet another hard and fast American rule. We don't negotiate with terrorists. The 100 or so Americans left behind will now be used by the Taliban, a terrorist organization, to negotiate better terms with America. In fact, it's already happening. The most important thing to remember is that everything that is happening now did not have to happen this way. Anyone with half an unbiased brain can tell you that we should have gotten all the Americans and our allies out before we pulled the troops out, before we closed the Bagram airport, and before we set any kind of deadline. And now more and more is being leaked out of the Pentagon that most of the generals advised vehemently against this. This decision was all the White House. A letter was sent by 90 retired admirals and generals to the Pentagon demanding that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley resign because of, quote, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. There must be some accountability. The White House has to stop with this willful, callous, feigned ignorance of what the world knows was a disaster.
I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan?
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now.
Can you say facilities
Okay.
That image of President Biden continuously turning his back and refusing to answer questions during a crisis will be one of the lasting images of this debacle. Like the image of desperate Afghans clinging to the side of a cargo plane and falling to their death. An Afghan woman handing her baby to a Marine so that he could be free. The carnage after a suicide bomb. The bodies of 13 American heroes arriving at Dover Air Base in Delaware, and our president continuously checking his watch during a solemn ceremony to remember them. America will remember. America deserves better. They deserve better. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.